We're getting ready to move. New 9 weeks, we'll switch seats.
Can we do it today?
Put you right next
You
to
said number 5?
Yeah.
You might want to watch closely on this one. Problem on the quiz isn't quite this difficult, but sort of like it. So give me just a minute so I can copy it down, and then we'll run through it. Number 5 on page 86. I'm not going to draw all the arrows. My picture might not be exact. Those are supposed to intersect at the right spots there. It's horrible. So we know that these two lines are parallel. We know that these two lines are parallel. I might not put the same arrows on that they put on either. And we know that these two lines are parallel to each other.
Are the symbols the same? Wait, so what'd you do?
No, parallel is
No, I meant like if you have like more than one, you put one. Instead of putting another line there, you
Right.
put two.
same idea. What's your question, Kyla?
So you would just redraw this way.
That's what we're going to have to do, and that's what on the quiz, those people whose grades I was just reading off, that's what they didn't do. Because we know that there's going to be several of you in here that'll do the same thing. I don't have to redraw that just because Eversource, I can figure it out without redrawing it. And then just, I've only been doing it for 20 some years, George, and you know, my whole thing that I enjoy in life is making you do more work than you have to do. That makes me happier than anything.
I appreciate that.
All right. That's what everybody always thinks. They're the idea that I get. Because if I'm drawing something off, if I'm splitting something off, there's a reason for it. I'm not doing it just because I want you to do extra work. That's just ridiculous. But students think that sometimes, I think. If I put an angle in the wrong spot, somebody please tell me. Should make Zach come up here and draw this since he asked for it. Mess anything up? They tell us, they got all the parallel lines, which we already put in there. They tell us angle 7, 24 degrees. So I'm going to get rid of 7 there and I'm going to put, stupid pen. 24 degrees there. Angle 20. Get rid of that. That's 80 degrees. Now, some of the angles, you can just look at the picture and tell what they are. And we can go ahead and write them in if you want. Like angle, if this is 24 degrees, tell me another angle that we know right away. Angle 8, what's it got to be? 24. What kind of angles are they to each other? Man, how come you guys know vertical angles so well? My first block class, no clue what vertical angles are.
That's really the other way.
That should be the easiest one, I think. You said what other angle? Be careful because we're going to have to get to that. All right? We can't just tell from looking at it real easy, right? See, who's going to be one of those guys that will split it off? It's right here. Give me another angle. 22, what is it? 80. Any others that we can find? 21, what do we know about these two? Supplementary, so what's 21? 100?
19 is also 100.
19's 100. So we know that one because those are vertical, or we could have used supplementary again. Let's see, we got that's 24. That looks like about it, isn't it? That we can just figure out that. Now, pick me two parallel lines. I didn't put them up here, so you have to look at your paper.
A and B.
A and B?
Yeah.
If we use A and B, that's this one and this one, right? So if I come over here and I split them off, and my picture might not look the greatest because I ain't got a whole lot of space. Now we need to pick a transversal.
Well, line
I heard
B.
what?
We could do
C, or we could do
Or
E, or we could do D, or we could do F, right? We could do any of them. I want to do D first. Sorry, but I'm making a choice here myself. How come I pick to use this bottom one? What do we know about these? We already have all those. So I had a bunch of numbers there that I already knew. So I'm going to start off there. What do we know about this angle right here? 80 degrees. If these two are parallel, that one's got to be 80. If we look over here, you got to be real careful. What angle is that in this picture? It's 28 and 29 together, isn't it? So we can't really mark that in, but we do know that from here to here, that whole thing is 80 degrees, sort of hard. What do you know about this angle? 100. Does that fit over here in this picture? Which angle is it? 27. What's that angle? 100. This angle? 80. Any of those fit over here? 32 is how much? 100. Now we know that this whole thing, did I miss an angle there?
31.
Yeah, I did, didn't I? We know that 31 and 30 together, the whole thing is 80 also. So we might use that somewhere down the road. Pick me two others. Do we want to use the same parallel lines at a different transversal?
Yeah, we can do A and B and then C.
So use the same two. If I draw it here, I don't have much room, so when I'm splitting it off. Use what? Use C, you said?
Yeah.
That's the top one. Now if I do that, which angle do I actually know the measure of?
7.
Do I know that this angle's 24? Be careful.
Well, no, it's just that one.
That's those two together, isn't it? So do I really know this whole angle? So do I know any of these angles? Not for sure yet. So maybe let's pick two other ones. What other? Do A, B, and E. So A and B are the same two going up and down, right? E is this one going this way. Is that right? Man, depends on. A, B, and E. Which one's E? That's this one. That's this one right here, right? E. So if we do that, do we know any of those angles?
But you can't because you don't know.
We sort of don't know any of those either, all complete either, do we? Like down here, we know these two, 31 and 32 is going to be, is that right? No, that's not right. Yeah, it's going to be the bottom angle down here all together. Or no, I'm sorry, 29 and 32 is going to be this angle right here all together. But we don't know both of them. We know this one up here is 24, but that's not this whole angle that we're looking at right here. It'd be 24 and angle 10. So what else could we do? Do we want to do A and B? We probably want to pick two different parallel lines, don't we?
What about C, D, and
C and D. So C and D are the ones that run across. And use what as the transversal? B?
Yeah, B.
B? That's this one?
No, that's the.
Oh, B is the one going up and down. Sorry. So we have that. Alright, so we know all these bottom angles, don't we? That's 100, that's 100, that's 80, that's 80. What's this angle right here? 100. What's this angle? 80. This angle? 80. 100. Now that's going to be these angles, some of these angles up here, right? Be careful though.
We got some line.
What's angle 5? That's 100, so we know that whole one. What's angle 10? 100. Now here's where you got to be careful. These two together should be what? 80. So if that's 24, that'd be 56. So now we know angle 6. What's angle 9 down here then? 56. Could we go back to some of these other pictures now that we drew? Yeah, if we go back to this one, that was these two, and the top is the transversal. Sorry, my pictures are so horrible this time. What's this right here? 100. What's this over here? 80. That's 100. That's 80. Somebody tell me angle 2 right here. 80. Angle 3. 80. Angle 4. 100. Angle 1. So now we know all those. Getting closer.
What don't we have? F.
I don't know, what don't we have?
15.
We don't have any of these right here, somebody said, right? What could we use to find those? We're not going to use the same parallel lines. Use these two going up here diagonally, right? And use what as the transversal? That one?
Yeah.
Be careful here when you look at this. Maybe if I did this with my regular marker, we're using these two. That, and we're using that as the transversal. If I could draw straight. This is angle 6 right up here, right? So what's angle 6? 56. I really don't even have to look at any of the rest of them. Could I find all these angles if these two lines are parallel? What's this angle? 56. What's this angle?
No.
What is it? 124. I think you were right, George. What's this angle? 124. What's this angle? 56. This angle? 124. This angle? This one? What's angle 15? 124, good. What's angle, that's a 124, it's ugly. What's angle 16? 56. What's angle 18? 56. Angle 17? 124. Oh, what other angles don't we have? We don't have these way out here. What would we have to, we're going to use those same two parallel lines, but what are we going to use as the transversal this time? Is that one? So let's see if I can draw it over here a little bit. Top line right there. So it goes, and I know again, we know that you guys are smarter than me, so you can, oops, I just drew in the same stupid line. You guys are smarter than me, so you really don't have to do this, but boy, I'm getting confused when I see all that mess. That's why I have to split it off. So I look at that. What's that angle right there? That's one I'm going to go off of. 24. That's this angle right here, right? Now can I find all the rest of those angles? What's this angle here? 24. This angle? 156. This angle? 24. This angle? 156. I think all the rest of these over here we already know, right? So I'm not even going to write those in again. What's angle 11? 156. What's angle 12? 24 degrees. And what's angle 13? I tricked somebody, didn't I? What's angle 14? 156. What else? All these down here. Which parallel lines are we going to use? Same two maybe? Except now what are we going to use? This is our transversal. Now let's look at this, see if we know any of this. We're looking at these two lines. We're looking at those two lines, and we're using, this is the transversal, is that right? Do we know any of those angles?
No, those are A, they did out of
And three, one together anyway.
We don't know enough there to, because we don't know this whole angle. We don't know 29 all by itself.
29 is 40.
Is that what we're gonna do, or something like that? Is that doesn't work out real well when you. Brandon's at home building a barn or something, and he goes, yeah, it should be about 12 feet or something like that.
About.
And that works out real well, doesn't it? When you get done with your barn and it's. What are we gonna do then?
27. 32.
We do know 32? Yeah, we know 32, but which angle do we need? We need 31 and 32 together, don't we? Is there any way that we can find those?
Angle 12 is the alternate exterior for angle 3, isn't
Let's see, where's angle 12 at?
it? It's all the way to the top, right?
All the way up top.
Yeah.
So that, for angle what?
The angle 30. Exterior.
Now, does that work? Because then we have to have how many transversals in our picture? We have to have 2 in there, don't we? We can't do that. I should probably erase that up here, shouldn't I? I don't know, did we get everything? Let's go back. We know more information now than we did when we were using these 2 as our parallel lines. And this is our transversal. Did we get everything? Did we move everything over? It looks like we did that way, didn't it? Okay, so that won't help us. Did we, is there something else that we didn't move somewhere along the line? No ideas? Try to use some of your other knowledge. Nobody has any other knowledge? You do? How about if I do this? Because I'm tired of being on this problem. Anybody know anything about that? What kind of shape was that? Triangle. What do you know about a triangle? 3 angles add up to 180. Do we know that angle and that angle? Can we find this angle? Somebody add those 2 up for me. What's left over for this one? 56. We know that's 56. Can we now find angle 29? Because those 2 together should add up to be how much?
No, 80.
80. So what's that give you? 24. Tell me what angle 30 out here is then. 24. What's angle 31? 56. Now if we go back down here, we're going to have enough information to find these others. Somebody tell me what's 24 here so I can just write in without splitting it off. 24, 24. Angle 24 is 24 degrees. Be careful here, what's angle 23? It's that whole thing, right? 156. What's 26? 156. What's 25? Did we find every angle now? Took too long. Thanks a lot, Zach. One more question if it's a quick one before this quiz. Number 4 on the same page.
Ah, do 21.
It's a lot smaller.
Do 21.
Can I do like one of those?
How is that a lot
21.
smaller? Is 21 one of the problems that's crooked?
It's the fine measure in an inch. It's on 133.
21. You have 21. We did it in intervention. We're actually gonna, and I'm gonna do this. You sure you want me to do this one? We're gonna do this in our notes here in a minute, and I'm not gonna.
Is it on the test?
No.
Okay, then don't do it.
20.
Is 20 on the test?
Yeah, there's a problem. Like I don't want to do 20 because the problem on the test. What's true about? I'll do 20 here in a second. What's true about the two lines going up and down in 20? They're parallel. How about the two going across? They're parallel. That's different than the problem that's on the quiz. 19 I could do. No, yeah, I'll do 19. Let's do 19.
Okay, which other ones are on the test that you were thinking?
I'll tell you this. There's one on the test that looks like this, or one on the quiz that looks like this. And there's one on the quiz that looks like this.
Does those arrows mean anything?
The what?
Arrows.
Yeah, what's these arrows mean?
Parallel.
Parallel.
2.
They're parallel. So we know these two are parallel. This is sort of like the one on the quiz. We'll find every problem or every angle in this picture even though they didn't ask us to. This is 5x. This angle's 40. This angle's 3y minus 1. Anytime I would do a problem like this, what I would do on this problem, I wouldn't even worry about the 3y minus 1 or the 5x. I'd go through and I'd find everything that I know. Like what can you tell me about that angle right there? 40. I would write it in. What can you tell me about this angle right here? 140. What can you tell me about this angle over here? It's 140. What can you tell me about this angle right here? 40. Alternate interior angles, right? What can you tell me about this angle? 140. What can you tell me about this angle? 40. Using all these rules right here, what can you tell me about this angle? One of the problems on the quiz is just like that. They give you a number, you find the other 7 angles. All right? Now, once I find all that, can we go back and solve for x?
5x plus 140.
Be careful now. What do we know about these two? They're equal to each other. So 5x equals 140. Divide by 5, you end up with x equals what? 28. What do you know about these two expressions right here? They're for the same angle, right? So they have to be equal. So what equation can we set up? Add 1 to both sides. 3y equals 141. Divide by 3. 47. Make sure on the quiz, where everybody was messing up, what are you going to do with this? Split it off. You got to split it off. Have one transversal, find all those angles, then transfer them back to the picture. Split them off. Use the other transversal, find all those angles, then transfer them back to the picture. When you're finished with this quiz, you're going to lay the quiz and the homework packet right here on that metal table. You have 5 minutes to do it. So what's 28 plus 5? 33. See, this is a time when you should have been a bad adder. Not a good adder.
42.
Too late now. He doesn't mess it up.
He said 40.
There's your quiz. Get out a clean sheet of paper. Draw those 2 pictures. Draw those 2 pictures and fill in. He's going to pick an angle number. He's going to tell me the measure of it. And anybody else, we'll just take the number and you all can just tell me what's your reason. All right, so that we don't have to take so long. Angle 5, 106 degrees. What's the reason? How did Thor know that? They're vertical angles. Pick me an angle, Kevin. Angle 1. 106. Somebody give me a reason. Okay, corresponding angles with Thor's, that would work. Alternate exterior angles with the other one. Mackenzie, pick me an angle.
3.
3, what is it?
106.
Somebody give me a reason. How'd she know that was 106? Vertical angles probably the easiest. Could have used alternate interior angles. You could have used corresponding angles, so on, so on, so on, all kinds of stuff. Kelsey, pick me an angle. 2. 74. Somebody give me a reason. Those 2 are supplementary, these 2 are supplementary, so on, so on, so on. Cameron, pick me an angle. 6. Give me a reason, somebody. Corresponding with that one. Supplementary linear pair with that one. Linear pair with that one. All kinds of different reasons. Pick me an angle. Madison. 4. 74. Vertical angle with that one. Supplementary to that one. Supplementary to that one. Alternate interior with that one. Consecutive interior with that one. All kinds of reasons, right, Noah? You know them all too, right? Next one, Brooke. 7. You sure that's one you want to pick? All right. What's angle 7? 74 degrees. All kinds of reasons. We're done with reasons. All right. Next one. Which 2 lines in this picture are parallel? The 2 green lines, right? A and B. Pick me a transversal, Haley. Haley's going to pick me a transversal. D. Difficult to pick the one on that side. So she picks D. What's the number that we know in that picture? It's right here, right? Can we find all the rest of these angles? This is 1, that's 4, that's 3, that's 7, that's 8, that's 16, that's 15. Looking at this picture, not this picture. Thor, did you split it off or did you? Split it off.
Oh, yeah.
Huh? You don't remember if you split it off like this or not?
Oh, yeah.
You didn't? Or you did? We're looking at my picture up here, the one that I drew, not this one. Where did we leave off at? Melanie, pick me an angle. 4, what's it? 70. They're vertical angles. Pick me an angle, Kylie. 16. 70. Pick me an angle, Kenneth, pick me an angle.
8.
8. 70. Caleb, pick me an angle.
1.
Angle 1.
110.
110. George, pick me an angle. 3. 110. Casey, pick me an angle.
7. 110.
Is that all of them? Nope, there's one more. Lila, pick me an angle. 15. I'm going to transfer all those over to this picture. Where are we at? We're over here. 110, 70. That was already 70. 70, 110. This one is 110, 70, 110, 70. Now, am I going to throw a big fit? And I probably shouldn't even say this. I should just stick by my guns and tell Caleb that he's got to split stuff off every single time. So if you drew that picture and then you covered it up with your hand or something, not that way, this way, are you still going to get it right probably? Yeah. Now the bad thing with that is, as soon as we get a picture like the one Zach picked a little while ago, is covering something up like this going to work? No, you've got to be able to separate things. All right? And make sure you don't get confused if you don't separate them. I separate off using what is the transversal? Use E, so that's this. Which number do we know? 60 is down here. This is 12, 11, 14, 13, 6, 5, and 10. We know that these two are parallel to each other. Where did we leave off at? Jonathan, pick me an angle. How did we skip you? You were up blowing your nose, weren't you? Trying to skip out. Pick me an angle.
I guess 5.
5. What is it?
I think it's 60.
60 vertical angles. Next one. Steve thought he was gonna get lucky, didn't he? Zach.
The other one next to it. Yeah.
10. What's it?
120.
Pick me an angle. Noah, pick me an angle. 12. 120. Pick me an angle, Jacob. 6. What's it? Pick me an angle, Brandon.
60.
Pick me an angle, Sierra.
14,
Pick me an angle, Tyler. If you get this wrong, you're done for the year in my class. Which angle are you picking? All right, so you're okay. What is it? I'm not even going to transfer them back over here. They should go over here. That should be an easy quiz each year. When I give that quiz, think about how easy it should be. Then I cry when people do stuff like this, because I guarantee if I look at, there's going to be at least a couple of you in here that you had that 70 right here. Guess what angle 11 came out to be? 70. If you're doing that, then you better separate things like I said from the beginning, because you're getting confused. 2 parallel lines, 1 transversal. Last time we talked about this, you don't have to write this down. We're going to write down something that looks real similar to this here in a little while. Last time we talked about this, and what we're going to do today is sort of the same thing, only it's the converse. Does anybody remember what's the converse do to a statement? Switches what? 2 things. What's the hypothesis in this first statement? Careful now. Parallel lines. Leave the if where it's at. What's the conclusion in this statement? Somebody tell me, what would the converse of that be then? If what? Listen closely. If corresponding angles are congruent, then what do we know about the lines? The lines are parallel. So we're going backwards now. Instead of them telling us the lines are parallel, now we're saying that we're trying to prove that the lines are parallel. The stuff that we do today, probably more important out in the real world, because you're going to go out in the real world and there's going to be 2 lines on the earth somewhere and they're going to be parallel to each other. No. Now you go out in the real world and you want to figure out, are these lines parallel to each other? That might happen, right? You might want to know if this is parallel to this, if this road's parallel to this road, or if they're not parallel. Let's say we have 2 roads and we're trying to connect them. When you make a connection between 2 roads, let's say you're some big housing developer now, making millions and millions of dollars a year, and you're developing a new housing complex in between these 2 roads. Are you just going to build your houses in there? What are you going to have to do? You're going to connect them to those 2 roads so your people can get in and out, right? If we're trying to decide whether these 2 roads are parallel or not, so we know how to run this new access road through there. Because when you build an access road, unlike some of the ones here in Preble County, like the one that I have to go on every day, it's not built correctly, it's not engineered correctly. when you go down Oxford Gettysburg Road and you hit 35, what's wrong with that intersection where you hit 35? It's like that, isn't it? What would you like the intersection to be? They're all straight. Perpendicular. You'd like it to be perpendicular. Why would we want that to be perpendicular?
So it's easier.
It's easier to see both ways. Right? Corn's growing. We never have any corn growing here in Preble County. Corn's growing there on both sides of the road. When I pull up there, it's hard to see, especially when you're coming in at an angle. So if we're building this housing complex here, we want to have that access road be like this. We don't want the access road, if our roads are not parallel to each other, we don't want some access road going like that, because then we built this housing complex here and our people's going to be coming out. It might not be good for them, because there's going to be a lot of crashes right there. All right? You ever wonder why some of the roads here in Preble County, there'll be a road, and maybe your road's running like here, and you get here, and all of a sudden it turns at a complete right angle. Why did they do that? How come they didn't just bring it like right up there? Because they wanted it to do what? Be perpendicular. Or some roads you'll go around an S-curve before you get to the next road. Why did they put that S-curve in there instead of just taking it like right up there? Because they wanted it to be perpendicular so you can see better when you get to that intersection. All right? So what we're in the real world, we're probably more trying to decide, hey, is this line parallel to that line, rather than already knowing that the two are parallel and finding angles related to them. Did all this last time. That's what we just, let's go back. Because I started talking about that and forgot. Somebody read this one to me. What's it say again? Corresponding angles congruent. What word is going to remind us about corresponding angles? Smash. You smash the two lines together. Maybe if you draw the picture here, we have this picture. That's our, what's that line called again? Transversal. We smash the two parallel lines together. Corresponding angles lay over top of each other. Next one. What do we know about alternate interior angles? They're congruent. They form a Z or a N. If you have parallel lines, what do you know about alternate exterior angles? They're congruent and they're the farthest apart in the picture. They're the farthest from each other. These two, those two, they're farthest apart in the picture. And then the last one's the oddball, and it's roommates. What's different about it than the other three? They add up to 180 instead of being congruent. All right, write this down, and what we're going to do right below this is your notes for the day. We're actually going to do two of the problems that I said I didn't want to do off of the homework, and I'm going to explain those two problems. And I want you to write down these two problems once I have them drawn up here. Yeah, I want you to write them down in your notes right there. You can read mine. 60. 60 and 20. Yeah, 60 and 20. Pen didn't work very well. Sorry, I'm gonna be here in 1 second. Knew what I was looking at before.
No, I really didn't.
You did.
You just gotta be good things.
Just wanted to mess with me, make me walk off. These problems. What's wrong with these problems that you couldn't do them with the information I gave you last time? The transversal is it's bent, it's crooked. All right. These are called crook problems. Crook problems. Remember a couple of weeks ago we talked about 2 angle problems, and we did some of those. This is another one of those kind of special problems that we'll have throughout the year. With crook problems, we had a theorem last time that said if you have a point right here, and I draw a line through that point, Kenneth draws a line through that point, Rebecca draws a line through that point, Sierra draws a line through that point, Melanie draws a line through that point. We all draw a line through that point, and we all make our new line parallel to the original 2 lines. How many different lines, as I walk around and look at all their papers, how many different lines is there going to be? They're all going to be exactly the same. Because how many lines are there in our world that go through that point that's parallel to that line right there? There's only one. All right? So when I draw this line, in geometry you can't assume a lot of things, but one of the things that we can assume is that we can draw a line through that and we can make it parallel to the other 2. Because there's only one line in the world where that's going to work. There's not 2, 3, 4, or 5 different lines. Everybody, if I said draw a line through that point that's parallel to this line, everybody's got to draw the exact same line because there's only one. Now once I do that, if I split off, I'll change my pen back here because I can see that green. If I split off the top 2 lines, so we're getting rid of this. Now that right there is a what for those top 2 lines? The transversal. Comes down like that. What do I know about this angle right here? 60 degrees. If that angle's 60, what's this angle over here? Alternate interior angles, right? So this top part right here, where angle 1, part of angle 1 is 60 degrees. If I split off the bottom 2 lines, this is a what for those 2 lines? Transversal. Good. So that's 20 right there. What can you tell me about this angle right here? It's 20. So that means this part right here is 20. How could I go about finding the measure of angle 1 right there? Add those 2 together. What's 20 plus 60? So what's angle 1 have to be? 80 degrees. That's called a crook problem. Same idea on this next one. I draw that line through there, make it parallel to the other 2. If I split off the top 2 lines, use this as my transversal. I know this angle out here is 140. This one might be a little tougher. We're looking for this part, right? Well, those two angles aren't anything special to each other. But what do you know about this angle right here? It's 40, because they have to add up to 180. If it's 40, what's this one over here? 40. So the part that we're looking for is 40 right there. If I split off the bottom two lines, use this as our transversal. We know this angle's 32. What's that angle right there? 32, because they're alternate interior. What's the measure of angle 1 then? 72 degrees. Again, in real world situations, might this be a little more helpful than just having one line that cuts through them that's the actual transversal? Yeah, there's probably going to be more times out in the real world where you have two lines and you have something crooked like that that's going through them that you need to do something with. All right, write down these 4 theorems. I know they look the same, but what's different about them? They're backwards. They're the converse of all those things that we said. As you're writing them down, what's going to help you remember corresponding angles? What word? Smash. What's going to help us remember alternate interior? Zeroing in. Farthest apart. Roommates. Yep.
Why didn't you want to become a geometry teacher?
So I could deal with lovely young ladies such as yourself, Mackenzie.
Why Ligo?
Must be Mackenzie's first day. It's like I've never lied to you guys at all this year. Thor, do I lie to you guys? That's it. If there's one thing that's constant with me, it's I'm probably lying to you.
If you didn't lie to us, who you were.
We look at my picture up here. What can you tell me about these two lines? What can you tell me about these two lines?
Oh no, they're not parallel because they don't have a little thing.
They don't have the arrows on them, so we don't know anything about them. Nothing. You can't tell me they're two lines. You might say they're straight, I guess, but then I try to yell at you for saying, yeah, that's a stupid statement because all lines are straight. So what we're going to do, what these are going to allow us to do, or what we're going to do with this, they're going to show you a picture that looks like this, and they might tell you that this angle right here is 50 degrees. And then they tell you this angle down here is 50 degrees. What kind of angle are those two angles to each other? What special pair? Alternate interior. We have this theorem right here that says if those alternate interior angles are congruent, now what can we say about those two lines? Then they're parallel. Now we can say they're parallel. So that's what we're going to do. It's going to be going the reverse of what we were doing. Instead of knowing that they're parallel, finding all the angles, now we're going to know some of the angles and decide whether they're parallel or not. Again, new 9 weeks. Brandon's sitting back here drawing pictures of little smiley faces in his binder instead of writing down these notes. Is that helping him any?
Nope.
Absolutely not. You've got to start keeping track of stuff. What's what?
What does that bottle say? What the smiley
How do you know
smiley
that
face
he's-
is parallel?
Then it's not much of a smiley face. Think about that for a minute, how a smiley face could be parallel. Has everybody got it?
No.
Why you write this?
I have a question. Get it together.
Which question, Mackenzie?
You know that one line thingy that like Helen's website is supposed to be down the middle?
Symmetric?
Yeah. I was wondering like how that I mean it's supposed to be symmetric.
Sort of.
Like if you have a parallel line, isn't that kind of the same as saying you have a symmetric line too?
Could be. Not completely, because parallel lines have to be 2, symmetric could just be 1.
Yeah, but can't items also have 2 symmetric lines and can like
Could have.
parallel?
But they wouldn't be parallel. So if I drew some picture, let's see, what could I draw? If I draw an X and I want to draw a line of symmetry for that, that would split it up symmetrical, right? Also, I could draw that one across there. That would split it up symmetrical. But are those 2 lines that I drew parallel? Not necessarily. One more theorem. Transitive property for parallel. What does the transitive property for algebra say? Does anybody remember? If A equals B and what? And B equals C, then what conclusion can we draw? A equals C. Oops. A equals C, not B. It works out for parallel. If line P is parallel to line N, and line N is parallel to line M, what else can you tell me? Say it one more time. P is parallel to line M. Alright, so if we have this line, and it's parallel to that line, then I draw a third line and tell you that red one's parallel to the black one. What do we know about all 3 of those? They're all 3 parallel. So all 3 of these would be parallel to each other. You gotta yell at me sometimes. Say, hey, it'd be nice if they're so you're back.
What's the sign like? Go straight down. Got a line on the bottom. What's that?
Perpendicular.
Perpendicular.
There's really an upside down T, isn't it?
No, it's an upside down triangle.
George.
I apologize. I redact.
You don't even know where redact. You're not used to that. That's not. Redact does not mean that.
Fine, got you. It's fine, whatever. He regressed.
It's good that you're trying to use words that sound big.
All right, he regressed.
Because redact isn't a big word. It's only got 5 letters.
He regressed.
Has everybody got that much? Your assignment's on page 142. We have about 11 minutes. Get your books out and opened up. It's never happened before. You better take advantage of it today.
You got early time. Extra time. I'm about to have a heart attack.
We use it fasting class.
Jonathan, do it quickly. I don't want to be here late today doing paperwork over you
And cutting.
having a heart attack in my class.
You don't have to do paperwork, just get around the hall.
That's true. I'll get somebody to help me drag you out in the hallway, maybe.
I didn't see anything, Mr. Earnshaw. You're still recording.
That's all right.
Oh, I know, I said that.
Kenny, I wish you were recording.
Kenneth, tell your mom to listen to this when she's all mad at you. Say, but you ought to listen to Ebersol, how mean he is to everybody. Talking about Jonathan having a heart attack and going down the hallway. Kenneth, I'd talk to your mother. She'd find it probably pretty funny.
Yeah, she would.
Say, that's what you guys deserve.
You better be happy with the weight. You didn't have a secret.
Why does that make me happy? Why? Because if you were asleep, I wouldn't be having this conversation right now, wasting my breath. If you were asleep. I never have understood that. Why should I care if you're awake or asleep? Who's that helping? Thank you. That's what everybody should think. It's not helping me, it should be helping you. You know when I was talking about drawing the smiley faces, who I was thinking of, don't you? Alright. Make sure you keep your binders, keep them caught up. Don't make stuff harder than it has to be in here. I know I make this class almost impossible to pass, giving you quizzes like the one that we took today.
That was so hard. No one asked you.
I don't know how I have such a good grade.
Problems! Let me do this real quick. Discard. Home. New slide. Slideshow. Current slide. We're going to start working some of these problems. We got 8 minutes. We wasted 3 while I was up here messing around, not helping you out. My first class, we got like the first 13 problems done or something. But they're a lot better geometry people than you guys. So.
But they don't know what vertical angles are?
I wouldn't doubt it.
Do we want to start at number 3? All right.
Yeah, we got a smart direction.
Problem number 3. Watch closely. And we'll skip on to other problems as we go. If you decide, hey, I know how to do those, let's not do any more of those problems. I can do them on my own. Problem number 3, they say they want you to prove that line M and line N are parallel. I'm not going to draw the arrows and everything on all these pictures because it just takes up more time. They tell us that that angle is 120, this angle is 3x. They want us to find x so that these two lines are parallel. So we're trying to find the number we could stick in there that would make this angle and this angle match up so that these two lines would have to be parallel. What kind of angles are those two angles to each other? Corresponding. What do we know about corresponding angles?
Smash.
They should be congruent to each other. They should be congruent to each other. So what equation can I set up? 3x equals 120. We solve for x, divide by 3. X equals 40. That's all they're asking you to do on this is find that x. So that if we stuck 40 in there, that would make this angle 120. Then what would have to be true about these two lines? They'd have to be parallel to each other. We want to do number 4?
Yes.
Number 4. 135. That's 2x plus 15. What kind of angles are those two to each other? Corresponding. What should be true about corresponding angles if these two lines were parallel? So what equation can I set up? Solve it. Somebody help me out. 120. Help me out again.
60.
Are we doing number 5?
Yes.
Oh, number 5's different. Might want to watch. 3x minus 15. What kind of angles are those two to each other? Consecutive interior angles. So they should add up to
180.
180. What equation can we set up then?
3x minus 15 plus 130 equals 180.
I'm going to solve this real quick. Hopefully you can solve it.
Plus 15.
You were right. I'm just going a little quicker than that. What's x equal?
15.
I just did a couple steps in my head instead of writing them out. Do we want to do 6?
Just go to different sections.
6? Is that what somebody said?
Yes.
Yes? First, tell me about this angle right here. Tell me about this angle. It's a right angle. Absolutely not. That's what I want somebody to say. Thank you, George. See me and George work this out so he knows I'm going to yell at him. He doesn't mind. How do we know that that is not a right angle? There's no symbol in it. Don't say it's a right angle. Maybe it is, maybe it's not. This 180 minus x, this angle over here is x. What kind of angles are those two to each other? Alternate exterior. What should be true about alternate exterior? So 180 minus x should equal what? X. How are we going to solve that? You got an x and you add another x.
2x.
You end up with 2x equals 180. 180, sorry. Divide by 2, what's x equal? 90. Now, George, I point at this angle. What do you know about that angle right there? I'm sorry, what do you know about that angle right there? It's a right angle. Now we know it. Before we didn't. I'm tired of those problems. 7 to 8 you can do on your own. Ah, that's not what I meant. Previous. Erase. Problem 13. Stupid thing. Problem 13. These are a little different. They say decide whether there's enough information to prove the lines are parallel. If so, you got to write out the theorem. So on 13, they give us something that looks like this. They tell us that angle's congruent to that angle. Are those angles anything special to each other? They're alternate interior. If those two are congruent to each other, does that tell us that these two lines are parallel?
Yes.
Yes, and what we write, our reason. Number 1, we write yes, that's part of our answer. If alternate interior angles are what to each other? Congruent, then what do we know? Then parallel lines. That's our reason. If we know that these two angles are congruent, then we know that these two lines are parallel.